if it weren't for Springfield Public Schools, Dan and I would not have met, because it was Hillcrest High School's broadcast television program led by Coach Davis, Dave Davis.
You know, it was pretty clear to me he had the heart of a journalist, the instincts of a journalist right away. When we started the course his sophomore year, he was doing stories, and Dan was never afraid of something edgy. He was never afraid to push an envelope, even as a kid in high school.
That put Dan on a career path in broadcast journalism. And Dan and I met because we were both working at ABC News in New York. And we both had a shared passion for journalism and storytelling. And it was a path that he started on in high school. So after graduating college, Dan moved out to Seattle, Washington, where he ultimately founded a company with somebody else that grew to, I think it was 60 employees. And Dan was the co-founder and co-head of an internet company. And then when the internet bust happened in the 90s, he thought, well, gee, I meant to go into broadcast journalism. I ended up on this little side journey. And he thought, well, what I'll do is I'll apply to whatever the best journalism graduate school is in the country, and if I get in, I'll go. So he applied to the Columbia University School of Journalism, and he got in, and he said that he sold everything he owned and came to New York City with a suitcase.
I've known Dan for about 25 years, and we first met when I was the business correspondent at ABC News, and I hired him to be my editorial producer. When we were working together at ABC News, we did a story about the pension crisis and people who had worked all of their lives only to have kind of a bait and switch at the end, and to discover that after 20 years of, say, working in a bottling plant and expecting that they'd have a pension of $600 a month, all of a sudden it was going to be $152 a month. That was a story that we were very proud of, and that we earned an Emmy for as a team.
His name's on the Emmy trophy with Peter Jennings and a few other notables at ABC for a series they did.
I've worked with Dan for 4 years now, very closely, in his capacity as SVP of news programming for MSNBC, which means that he oversees all the reports hours 7 days a week for MSNBC's cable programming. And what we've seen in terms of viewership growth, I think, demonstrates the incredible job that Dan has done at the helm of that. One moment that I specifically remember with Dan is in the beginning of COVID. We had to make quick, decisive actions, and Dan was at the center of that rapidly evolving situation. We had to move teams home fast for their safety, and yet at the same time had to juggle keeping a 24-hour cable news network on the air.
He's a problem solver too. I've always said about Dan that he's the kind of person I want to have in the foxhole with me, because he's smart, he's resourceful, he keeps his cool, he's thinking 2 steps ahead, and he's not going to let you down. One thing I really respect about Dan is that he has a very steady internal compass. He's well grounded, and he feels like a fixed presence at a time when things can kind of swirl around you.
He is probably in our Mount Rushmore of HTVers. I think he's probably one of them. Nothing about his success surprises me because I know him, because I know his family, because I know how hard he'll work. So I'm tickled to see him get this recognition from the district.